I'm pretty sure I've never read any of these. I think they are new and I got them off of Reddit. My newly wife playfully smeared icing across my cheek, so in return, I smashed her face into the rest of the cake. When she went limp, I pulled her towards me only to see a skewer through her eye. New fear unlocked. I feel like I always see cake makers put those like sticks into the cakes. Oh my god. None of them are pointy though, I think. My wife has ruined my life for so long that I finally hired a hitman. As we sit having lunch, I see him approach and smile, knowing that she'll never be able to forget my exploding face. Well, that was a plot twist. You're very lucky your sister is around to help you learn these lessons, I told my eldest daughter. I turned back to her as I dropped the screaming infant over the balcony. And this is why you don't climb on the railings. Maybe if I wasn't married, I said to let him down gently. The words haunt me now as he stands trial for my husband's murder. What the
Nothing drives me more crazy than when someone dies under mysterious circumstances and there's so much evidence left behind, yet no one knows what actually happened. Or when someone is killed and there's evidence that it could be a major cover-up, yet nothing is certain because of who is involved. This is what's currently happening to Karen Reed, and this is genuinely the first case that I don't know what to believe. If you don't know who this woman is, you should watch the upcoming new true crime docuseries from Investigation Discovery called A Body in the Snow: The Trial of Karen Reed. In just 5 episodes, this special will cover in depth the recent murder trial of Karen Reed, who was accused of murdering her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. This is an extremely high profile murder case because John was a Boston police officer of 16 years, and yet what exactly happened to him and who was responsible has never been explained. So on January 28th, 2022, Karen and John, who'd been dating for 2 years, went out to a bar. Their relationship had its ups and downs, but on that specific night, everything seemed fine. According to Karen, when they left the bar, she dropped John off at a house where there was going to be an after party. This said house just so happened to belong to a fellow police officer, more specifically, a now retired Boston police sergeant. What followed is still a mystery, but it resulted in John being mortally injured and left for dead in the snow on the front lawn of this sergeant's house. His body wouldn't be found until the next morning, and almost immediately, all fingers were pointed at Karen. Evidence was found that really incriminated her, and so she was arrested and charged with his murder. But here's the thing. Said evidence reportedly could have been planted by police in an attempt to frame Karen. At least that's what she's saying happened. And conveniently enough, not a single witness actually saw Karen do anything. So this case went to trial in 2024, which resulted in a mistrial. This docuseries walks you through the evidence found, and it lets you hear every possible angle from those involved in the case, including Karen herself. In fact, for the majority of the series, you will hear from Karen directly. And one thing that I found interesting was how at one moment she was talking about her old life, and the very next she was somehow being accused of murdering a Boston police officer. But one thing that I appreciated in this series was how closely it followed Karen, because it really gave you the chance to examine her words and her body language. In the show, the trial was described as a murder carnival, and that's exactly what it was. I can guarantee you that just by watching this, you will never hear of a more twisted case, and the facts they present are going to make your jaw drop. Could Karen really be responsible for such a heinous crime, or is there something much more sinister at play, possibly involving those with power who we are supposed to trust? Watch A Body in the Snow: The Trial of Karen Reed to find out for yourself. This docuseries is premiering on Investigation Discovery over 3 nights, March 17th and 18th, and the finale on March 19th at 9 p.m. I need you guys to watch this.
Spooky story time. A follower named Annalisa sent me this video and we're going to call it The Face on the Door. She also sent us proof, so I'm going to post that as well. Annalisa says that they live in a new house. They've been there for a few years, but they were the first people to ever live in that house because the house was brand new.
About you, and it's no one else like you is what they're getting. Positive vibes only. Shout out to King Saul's boss and the
research on the land, and she wasn't able to find anything specific, so she has no idea where any of this is coming from. She says that there are at least 2 spirits in her home. She says that one of these spirits is a child, and the child loves to play peekaboo. She says that she could be watching TV or whatever, and on the corner of her eye, she can see the child kind of like peeking around corners or like the footboard of the bed, and loves to move stuff around like lollipops and stuff. She says with that spirit, it's mostly silly things that he does, but it's still very creepy. The other spirit, she says, is completely opposite. That he is very tall, about 6'5", and he just has this dark and heavy presence. She says that her son, who's 15, has seen this apparition multiple times, one time through a mirror, Another time, he was standing in the hallway bathroom, looked at him, and walked through the wall into the next bedroom. And she says she's never seen her son that scared in her entire life. Even her mom has had experiences with this presence. She said that one time her mom was asleep on the couch. She's out. That next morning, she feels someone sit on the couch. And she's kind of annoyed because she thinks it's her husband. And she's like, what do you want? Like, I'm asleep. No answer. So she sits up and there's nobody on the couch. She goes and she checks, and her husband is fast asleep on the bed. The creepiest of all, she says that she was outside playing with her babies one day, enjoying the nice weather, and out of nowhere, she just looks at their screen door in the front, and she notices an imprint of a man's face. I'm going to insert that here. She's Native American, and she says that she thinks that whatever this is, whatever spirit this is also Native American because of some features that he has. She does want to dig deeper, but she's low-key kind of scared about opening a door that she might not be able to close. She does want me to add that they've never used anything crazy like a Ouija board inside that house or anything like that. So she doesn't know what it could possibly be or why there's even spirits in this house. She's even used sage to cleanse that house, and it works for a little bit, but they always end up coming back.
Sauce the boss, sauce the boss.
Thank you so much to Annalisa for sending me this story. That picture that you sent is
about you, and it's no one else like you is what they're getting. Positive vibes only.
If you guys have any,
shout out to King Sauce Boss in the building.
Send them via DM or email, and I'd love to read them. And I will see you guys in the next spooky story. Bye.
An email from a 911 operator to tell us their spooky story. Now, in the email, she said, this isn't my story, but this happened to my boss. But my boss is the type of guy who's not going to embellish. He's not going to make things up for attention. We're going to call her boss John. John says that one night he was working, it was late, and a call comes in. He picks up the call, and on the other end of the line, there is a man. And this man is telling him that where he's living right now, there is an active DV situation happening. The man on the line gives John the address and requests that he send officers. John dispatches the officers to the address that was provided to him. He tells the officers there's a man in the house who is calling to report a DV situation. He is calling from the landline, and he is requesting that someone come. The officers go, they show up, they knock on the door, a woman answers. They ask the woman, is there anything happening in this house right now? The woman just answers, no, nothing is going on. The officer then proceeds to tell her, well, we had a call from the landline at this house that there is an active DV situation happening. The officer that is talking to the woman looks behind her and notices that her husband is standing there just very menacingly. But once again, the woman tells the officers, we're the only people in the house, we did not call, nothing is going on. But the police officer that is talking to her just is not buying it. So he pries for a little more information. He asks her again, and once again, she says no. At this point, there's nothing that the officer can do. This woman is not going to report that she's dealing with any abuse or a DV situation, so he just has to take her word for it and leave. So the officers do end up leaving, but the officer that was talking to her, he's just got a bad feeling, like something is not right in this house. So he ends up going back to the 911 operator and telling the 911 operator that he would like a recording of the call. Now, I am not sure how this works now, but at this time, in order to get that recording, they had to get a judge involved. So they get the judge involved, he releases the recording, it's given to the officer. When the officer gets that recording, he calls the woman and asks her to come in. He brings her into a room, he sits her down, he presses play on the recorder. When the woman hears whose voice is on the other end of that line calling, she starts to cry. She tells the officer, the man on the other end of the line is my dad, but that's not possible because my dad is no longer with us. He has passed away. He was passed away when this call came in, and it's not possible that this is him. But after this woman hears her father's voice on this call, she breaks down and she tells the officer everything. She is indeed living in an abusive situation. She is indeed experiencing domestic violence. Once she tells the police officers about this, that man, her husband, is arrested on DV charges. But the woman still says, like, there's no way that my dad made that call, but he did, and it did come from her landline. Now, the last time that I shared a first responder story about a strange call, Cole was basically in those comments fighting for his freaking life. So when this story came in, I decided before I told it, I was going to do a little bit of research. I looked for it online. I didn't find anything. I called my friend who's a paramedic, and I asked him to ask around to see if this story is something that floats around within that community, at least here locally, and he said no. I then went in and I asked ChatGPT if this story exists anywhere on the internet, and it said no, it does not. While there are ghostly calls that have been reported, this specific story does not exist. I did not do this because I do not believe or trust the person who sent this to me. I did this to head off whatever's coming next. When it came to Cole's story, the nastiness that I saw in those comments and the abuse of throwing around power was ridiculous. Even when a real person, a real man, a real paramedic is in the comments telling you, no, this is my story, this is really what happened to me. I'm not saying that it's paranormal, I'm just saying I can't explain it. And just like the responses that he was getting and how nasty people were to him, that's not going to happen here. And now, while I am all for open discussion and questions and taking everything with a grain of salt and being a skeptic does not give you the right to insult another human being, not to the level that I saw. I just went on ahead and I did that research to hopefully head off some of that. Thank you so much, and everyone have, well, literally just the day you deserve.
The following story would make me never want to be
Sauce,
home alone.
the
I was
boss
home
in
alone
the
for a
building.
weekend a few years ago while I was
Shout
still
to
in high
Sauce, the
school.
boss,
After
of
school
course,
one day,
man.
I was
Who's in the
driving
building,
home,
man?
and when I passed in front of my house, I thought I saw some old lady in white clothes in my sister's room looking through the window. I'll be driving past my house. I thought it was stupid, so I went into the room to check out what it actually was, but I couldn't find anything. I pretty much just forgot about it until later that night. I got a call from a very panicked and scared neighbor saying there was some old lady pacing back and forth in my sister's room. Well, neighbor, you might want to scooch over because I'm staying at your house. I still have no idea what it was, and I've never seen anything like it since. Can you imagine the neighbor though, like knowing there's no old lady living there, but someone's pacing back and forth? That sounds like The Visit type shit. Have you guys seen that movie? Anyway, what do you guys think? What would you have done? Because I know for a fact I wouldn't have even stopped. Like, yeah, no, I wouldn't have stopped. I wouldn't have gone to my sister's room. Let's just say I did. Neighbor called me at night telling me somebody's pacing back and forth. Neighbor, yeah, I'm gonna live with you now until my parents come back. What do you guys think?
I have another spooky story for you guys. This one was submitted to me by an ER nurse. She does want to remain anonymous, so I won't tag her, but she did want to share her spooky story with us in our little community. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it and read off her story. I've been a nurse for almost 12 years, most of the time working overnights in emergency departments. You see a lot in the middle of the night, but you get used to the chaos. Most of the time, any strange experiences can be attributed to the exhaustion that comes with working long overnight shifts, but this incident was completely real and completely unexplainable. This took place when I was working at a small rural hospital. The night started out like any other, with multiple patients coming in for various ailments. By 4 a.m., new patients had stopped coming in, and everyone who had come in that night was already taken care of. The lights were dim, and it was just me, another nurse named Clara, names changed, and a couple of other nurses. While it was slow, I decided to restock the linens near room 105. Room 105 was at the far end of the hallway. It was one of the older rooms with bad lighting and the only one with no window. None of us liked going in there because there was always something off about that room. It felt like the air was heavier than it should be. We always joked that it was haunted, especially because the call bell from that room would sometimes go off even when the room was empty and all machines were unplugged. So anyway, I'm loading sheets into the cabinet just outside the room, and I swear I hear something that
Shout
sounds
to
like
Sauce, the
whispering.
boss,
It
of
was
course,
faint
man.
and
Who's
sounded
in the
like someone
building,
was
man?
just talking through a
Shout to
fan.
Sauce,
At
the
first,
boss.
I thought it was Clara on the phone, but when I looked around, the hallway was empty. The sound seemed to be coming from inside the room. I opened the door to look inside and saw that all the lights had been off except for the bathroom light. That was strange because I had cleaned the room myself an hour earlier and shut everything off. I stood in the doorway for a few seconds trying to listen, and that's when I heard it again. A whispery voice, this time clearer, saying, "Don't go." I wish I could say I calmly investigated, but I didn't. I slammed the door shut and practically ran back to the nurse's station. Clara saw my face and immediately asked what was wrong. I told her what I heard, and she said, "Was it a woman's voice?" I nodded yes. She got real quiet and told me that years ago, a patient had passed away in that same room. A woman in her 30s was in and out of consciousness when she came in, and they were ultimately unable to save her. Clara said that right before the woman passed, she grabbed her hand and said, "Don't go, I'm scared." A few hours later, right before the end of our shift, a trauma came in from a bad car accident with 2 patients. I helped wheel one of them into room 105 because it was the only open bed at the time. He was unconscious and needed to be intubated. As we got him settled, I started to feel that heavy pressure in the air. A while later, another nurse came in to check his vitals and then left to grab a portable monitor. I was alone in the room with the patient for only a few minutes, and in those few minutes, something happened that I still can't explain. The monitor started beeping like it had lost connection, even though all the leads were secure. Then the bathroom light flickered, and then the patient opened his eyes. His eyes looked unfocused and as if they were looking past me. And his lips started moving, but there was no sound as he was just mouthing words. I leaned down to try and hear what he was saying, and I swear on my license, I saw a shadow move across the wall behind me, but no one was there. The patient grabbed my arm and whispered, "Don't leave me." A second later, he started seizing. The other nurses rushed in, stabilized him, and got him moved to ICU. He made it, thank God. But when he came to the next day, he asked one of the day shift nurses who the crying lady was in his room the night before. He said she stood in the corner by the bathroom and watched him all night. I never figured out if the crying lady was there because she's scared to move on or because she wants someone else to stay behind with her. Either way, I avoided that room as much as I could from then on. So what do you guys think about what she experienced? Leave your thoughts down in the comments, and don't forget to like and follow for more spooky stories.
I don't get how a children's group home can continue to stay open when there's
Sauce,
been 30 missing
the
person
boss
cases
in
from
the
it in
building.
just the past 3 years. And now this little girl who recently went
Sauce the
missing from
boss,
said
yo,
group home
Sauce
turns
the
up
boss,
dead
of
3
course.
weeks after she was last
Fifth
seen. The
Assembly
details
sauce.
surrounding this case are incredibly disturbing and gruesome,
At
and
all.
her killer is
Who else,
still
man?
on the loose. So let's talk about it.
Sauce
This is
the
Emily
boss,
Pike.
man.
She was
Of
14
course,
years
sauce.
old when she mysteriously
At all.
disappeared on January 27th of this year. She was last seen near Mesa Drive and McKellips Road in Mesa, Arizona, leaving the group home where she lived on foot. The group home where Emily lived has not been publicly identified for privacy reasons because minors lived there, but it's in this general area. According to news sources, the group home's website says that they serve girls between the ages of 7 and 17, and Emily was one of those girls. Emily was from the San Carlos Apache tribe, and she had reportedly moved to the area because there were better resources for mental health. Not a lot is known about this case, but what we do know is that after Emily left her group home, she completely disappeared. And when she failed to come home that night, a manager at the home reported her missing to the Gila County Sheriff's Office. Authorities were able to look through security footage from nearby businesses and determine that she was last seen in this area, near Mesa Drive and McKellips Road. But nothing appeared suspicious on the footage, and where she went and what happened to her from this point forward has never been explained. Emily was missing for nearly 3 weeks when authorities made a gruesome discovery, which just so happened to be on Valentine's Day. Just off of Highway 60 in Globe, Arizona, were trash bags along the road, and in them were Emily's dismembered remains. This is about 73 miles away from where she was last seen, and this is an extremely remote area. There were no businesses or houses anywhere for miles, so this made finding out how she got to this area and who put her there incredibly difficult, since there were no cameras. Her head and torso were in separate bags, and some of her remains, including her arms and hands, are still missing as we speak. Her cause of death is still being investigated, but it was reported that she suffered from facial and head trauma. When she died has yet to be revealed as well. This is obviously incredibly disturbing, but how it was revealed to everyone is just as bad. Information about Emily's murder was leaked online from the Gila County Sheriff's Office. They somehow posted a memo which leaked the disturbing nature of Emily's body on their social media page, and this sparked outrage, rightfully so. I recently heard about Emily's story, but I didn't realize how horrifying it was until I looked into it myself. What's crazy is the fact that the group home where Emily lived had 30 missing person cases from it in just the past 3 years. This has recently come to light thanks to a public information officer with the Mesa Police Department. That's insane to me, and I guess I don't know a lot about group homes, but that just does not seem normal to me, like at all. According to authorities, they don't believe that Emily was killed and where her remains were found. And although they're saying that they've received a lot of tips, whoever did this is still out there. As of today, Thursday, March 13th, there are no suspects in this case and no arrests have been made. That is horrifying to think about, especially with how gruesome this case is. The FBI is now assisting in tracking this killer down, but local police say that there is no active threat to the public, which is crazy to me considering the nature in which Emily was killed and the fact that whoever did such a heinous thing is still just roaming free. Emily was only 14 years old. She was a literal child. She loved the color pink, did really well in school, and was described as a creative, kind-hearted little girl who loved butterflies, music, and art. The fact that more people aren't talking about this is alarming because the system failed her. This isn't just a one-off situation either. Indigenous children in the foster care system are reported missing and are murdered at a higher rate than anyone else in the system. We cannot let what happened to Emily be forgotten, and this needs to be a reality check. This has to wake you up to the epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women and people. Emily's murder has caused outrage, and crowds of people have come together to push for change, which is working. Right now, there's a new bill in Arizona that's seeking to create an Amber Alert style system for missing Indigenous people, which I hope passes. I'm not entirely sure what we can do do to help make that happen. But a good place to start is to keep telling Emily's story and all of the other stories of missing and murdered Indigenous women and children. This has to stop. They all deserve justice, and their cases deserve attention too.
Spooky story time. A follower that wants to remain anonymous sent me this story, and we're going to call it That Wasn't Me. For the sake of the story, we're going to call her Macy. Macy says that since she was a toddler, her family tells her that they would see her standing in the hallway talking to nobody. She says that she would always see shadows and hear things. So weird things have always happened to her. Macy says that when she was about 8 years old, her mom married a man and they had their first son together. So being a big sister, she was so excited. She says she was kind of like a tiny mom and she would always help her mom with her little brother. She says that they lived in a duplex and it was only a 1-bedroom home, but it was very big and they all shared that 1 bedroom. She had a loft bed with a desk underneath and there was a vanity right across from her with a mirror. One night, her baby brother wakes up crying and she opens her eyes and she kind of looks over to make sure that he's being taken care of, which he was. Mama was already up. She turns to her side, happens to look at the mirror in the vanity, and she sees a shadow standing underneath her loft bed, holding a baby and kind of like rocking it like this. No, ma'am. Freaking out, she clears her eyes, looks at the crib, baby brother's in there, so she's like, okay, cool. Looks over at the mirror and the image is gone. Another night, she's literally in the middle of her sleep and she gets the urge to wake up. She opens her eyes, she looks over, and there the shadow is underneath her loft. She looks, she can see it through the mirror, and she says she can just feel that whatever that was, it was looking right at her. She's like, hell nah, turns over, forces herself to go to sleep. Some time passes, and now her mom is pregnant with her little sister. Again, they were living in a 1-bedroom home, so they're kind of forced, and they have to move somewhere else because there's no way 5 people are going to fit in 1 room. She gets sent off to bed early. She doesn't go to sleep because the light is on. Her mom's husband is packing stuff, and in one of those runs, she decides to look, and she sees like the top of a little girl's head. No one else sees it, so she kind of just tries to ignore it. She turns around, and she's like,
What are you talking about?
She ends up moving to her grandparents' house because she starts having issues with her mom's husband. And it's her grandparents, her aunt, who's 1 year younger. If you're Mexican, you already know the vibes, and herself. One day, she walks into their house and she sees that her aunt is kind of peeking at her from the kitchen. Macy's like, okay, weirdo, like, why are you looking at me like that? Her aunt tells her, did you just get here? Macy's like, yeah, I'm just walking in. What's going on? Her aunt is like, I saw you get here earlier. I saw you open the gate and everything, and you just never walked in. Macy's like, impossible. I just got here. I'm just now walking through the door. I don't know what to tell you. Her aunt is freaking out because she's like, I know what I saw.
What are you talking
Macy's
about?
just reassuring her, like, honey, I just got here. They drop it. A completely different day. Macy is at her house with her boyfriend and her siblings, and they are in her bedroom watching a movie. One of her other aunts was in town visiting, and her aunt walks into the bedroom and she says, please tell me that you just walked into the kitchen. Macy is like, no, I've been in here watching a movie the whole time.
At
Her
all.
other aunt
Who
is
else,
like,
man?
Macy, no, I saw
Sauce
you.
the boss,
We're
man.
walking
Of
up the
course, Sauce.
kitchen.
About you, and it's no one else like you is what they're getting. Positive vibes only.
Macy says that she's
Shout out to King Sauce Boss in the building. About you, and it's no one else like you.
Really not her, so she has no idea who it is, or what it wants. She ended up moving a little bit after that with her boyfriend, who is now her husband. She does have 2 kids, and she says that again, she's always seen things. She's always heard things. She's obviously seen shadows, and she doesn't know why. She says the most recent thing is a little bit after she had her second baby, she ran into this weird lady and she was just looking at her weird and talking to her. And she says that she was gonna, what do you guys think? Personally, I think that Macy might have a gift. She just doesn't know how to like really open that third eye. And I feel like if she were to really dedicate and learn
Shout out to
how
Sauce
to
the
use
boss,
that,
of course,
I think
man. Who's in the
she-
building, man?
About you, and it's no one else like you is what they're getting. Positive vibes only. Shout out to King Sauce Boss in the building. About you, and it's no one else like you is
I
what.
will see you guys in the next spooky story. Bye.
I have another spooky story for you guys. I'm super excited about this one because the person who submitted it to me, she does want to stay anonymous, so I won't tag her, but she did let me know that she is a medium. And this story that she's sharing with us is the scariest thing that has ever happened to her. So let's get started. I'm going to read to you her story. I come from a long line of mediums. My great grandmother was the person people would call to help their loved ones transition while they were passing away. My grandmother was a psychic medium who could read tea leaves. My mother spoke to spirits in her dreams, and I've been able to sense energies as long as I can remember. My grandmother always said I was the most sensitive and powerful medium in our family and encouraged me to use my gifts to help people. So when I'm not working my 9 to 5 and taking care of my family, that's what I do. Most of the time, what I see and feel is gentle. I've communicated with lost souls, confused spirits, and even passed messages from loved ones to their living relatives. But this story, this is the one that keeps me up at night. The only time I've ever truly feared for my soul and the soul of the people I was trying to help. It all started with a phone call from a woman who I'll call Rachel. She called me asking for help because she was convinced that her house was haunted. She and her husband Tom moved into the house with their 8-year-old daughter Lily just a few months before. Since then, they've been plagued with sleepless nights, cold spots, and a general feeling of being watched. I hear this kind of thing often, but there was something different in her voice. She sounded scared and desperate. I couldn't imagine leaving a nice family like this in distress, so I agreed to meet them at the house to see if I could help. From the outside, the house seemed pretty normal. It was a lovely 3-bedroom colonial on a quiet suburban street. It didn't scream haunted, but the moment I stepped inside, I felt it. There was a weight in the air that felt like walking underwater. When Rachel greeted me at the door, I immediately noticed how tired she looked. Her energy felt heavy, like that of someone who is carrying a high emotional burden. Her husband, Tom, hovered behind her, but seemed to be avoiding eye contact with me. Their daughter, who I'll call Lily, peeked out from behind the staircase, but kept her distance. I introduced myself and asked Rachel and Tom to explain what they had been experiencing. Tom didn't speak much, but Rachel explained that it all started with Lily saying that she heard knocking sounds coming from below her bedroom floor at night. Rachel and Tom dismissed the noises as just being part of the house, but Lily kept insisting that something was trying to get her. A little while after Lily first mentioned the knocking, she started drawing pictures that concerned her parents. When Rachel brought the drawings to me, I immediately felt a deep sense of dread. All of the drawings were of people without eyes, and some had mouths that were stitched shut. As soon as I touched one of the images to get a better sense of what was behind them, I became nauseous and had to run to the bathroom to avoid getting sick all over the images. I wanted to run out of the house so bad, but I just couldn't leave these people to deal with whatever this was alone. When I returned, Rachel continued describing more experiences. She had seen toys moving in Lily's room and had recently started hearing voices. Lily's behavior was also getting worse. She used to be a sweet, outgoing girl, but now she was having angry outbursts and only wanted to talk to herself in her room while drawing. To get a better sense of what I was dealing with, I told the family that I would walk around the house alone. As soon as I got to Lily's room, I knew I had found the source of the negative energy. That feeling of dread from touching Lily's drawings came rushing through me. I started feeling short of breath and became lightheaded. I had never been so overwhelmed by an entity in my entire life. As soon as I stepped out of the room, I saw Lily standing directly in front of me with a blank stare. I said hi to her and asked where her parents were. She ignored my question. Instead, she said, quote, "He talks to me when mommy and daddy are asleep. He says this is his house. He wants me to stay forever." I asked who he was, but she just started crying and ran off. At this point, I was sure there was a malevolent being in the home, but I would need to do a reading to be sure. I got Rachel and Tom's consent to perform the reading and began the process. As soon as I started saging the home, the banging sound Rachel told me about started. It followed me throughout the house, so I knew it wasn't a coincidence. When I was done, Rachel and Tom joined me at the kitchen table. I poured a ring of salt around us, and we held hands as I opened the door in my mind that separates the physical world from the spiritual. Immediately, I felt Tom saw her too and asked what she was doing out of her room. Lily didn't even acknowledge her dad. She continued staring at me and said, quote, "He says you can't help." Again, I asked who he is, but she didn't need an answer. Behind her, a tall shadow manifested out of thin air. Lily started screaming, but it wasn't a child's scream. Rachel and Tom, who couldn't even see the shadow, ran right over to her and tried to calm her down. Eventually, she did stop screaming. Lily eventually went to take a nap, and while she was napping, I told Rachel and Tom what I had seen and informed them that this type of presence was evil and was attached to their house, who was not going to leave easily and was actively trying to harm their family. So their options were to either banish the presence from the home, which would be incredibly difficult, or to just move.
Shout out to Sauce the Boss, of course, man. Who's in the building, man?
Had made arrangements to
On.
live somewhere
Who
else
else, man?
while they attempted to sell the
my
home.
life,
Long
son.
story short,
Sauce the Boss.
I bought the house.
It's his birthday. Everybody wish him happy birthday.
Oh, this is big right here, y'all. Everybody wish Sauce, the official boss, happy birthday, man. Let's go. Let's see it in the timeline.
Oh man,
I like
we're
the-
back once again.
I like the
It's a beautiful day.
wish
If
Sauce.
you feeling down, just get you a bag of that. We just
I like
light
to
up.
wish Sauce the
Can't
boss.
fight you, Mr. Head-Rock.
A happy
Can't
birthday.
greet him with two, only the third eye.
I like to give a big
Killer
shout to
vision,
Hasty Boy. That's somebody
PSER,
said Hasty
hospital.
Boy. Charlie
Left field
Fields.
is track. Accidents and opera O's. Conscience, unconscious. Flow
I like how
riding
that
on my
sound,
train. Denzel, Chris Pine, unstoppable.
I like to give a big happy
Albert
birthday
Einstein.
to
Imagination is more important
Sauce
than
the
knowledge.
Boss.
Therefore, I'm flying off the tracks. Extraterrestrial blunt, I got it on my lap. When the land soul train line,
I
hop
like to
up on
give
my
a big shout
dad.
to Billy Chapo.
They fear what they don't understand.
The
I
official
forgive them
capo.
cause they don't really know no better. Hope let them walk on water.
Shout
I'm
out to
dancing
Sauce
in
the
the
Boss,
middle of
man.
the
Happy
Atlantic Ocean with a
Happy
polo
birthday.
sweater. How bad do you want
we
success?
gonna
I was holding my breath unconsciously. The conscious me woke up and came up for air. I turned 1-3-6 into the boom ba ding. Dancing for chocolate, guaranteed them in the dreams. Fire miss, Mr. Clean. Dirty talk, come shots, Listerine. The devil tried to catch me slipping, but my third eye open. I see when I don't know. Body growing out the ground. I'm breathing a couple cups of the pressure coming.
My fault. The beats is blasting. The beats is beating. We got some shit to unbox because you know we have new decks on the way. Wait, new waves for the play bay. Tell them to go play with their mother. Coño, pero yo.